Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Oh, and by the way, because I think it's every 15 years, Hanukkah also falls on the same day, or at least calendar I looked at, it's actually the 26th, but I think it starts at sunset on the 25th. Nonetheless, happy Hanukkah and Christmas and whatever other holidays you are celebrating at this time, the solstice, what have you. This is our special edition of Tell Me Your Story, and it's with Lumari of Lumari.com. Lumari, hey, you know what? This is. I've always liked working on the holidays and around the holidays. It's always been so much fun, the energy. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Thanks for being with us here on Christmas Day.
Oh, I am so happy to be here, and I love working on the holidays. And the holiday energy is so beautiful. No matter what the story is, no matter what the spiritual connection is, the fact that we come together to celebrate is such a beautiful and remarkable thing.
It really is. It really is. And again, it doesn't really matter the story. It is actually the energy. And we're going to talk about that today. Our focus on, quite literally, this last special edition of Tell Me Your Story for 2024 is going to focus on the energy, but specifically on clearing the energy from this passing year, because it's not quite over yet, and preparing. It's kind of like doing spring cleaning, but it's in the winter, and it's making room for greater things that are coming in the coming new year. And even though nature does not recognize the new year, we're human beings and we created it, and so we recognize it. And so we're going to put some emphasis and some intent on that. And Lumari, you're going to share with us near the end of the program a meditation to help us to do that. I guess I want to start at this point in terms of the maybe as we do head into a new year, what are some of the things that you recommend for allowing or I don't want to say keeping us from, but working on not having to do this quite the same way every single year? In other words, we get more and more practiced on not taking in the energies that we want to clear at this particular point in time. Can we talk a little bit about that before we jump further into it?
Yes. Well, the thing is that the more aware you are of things going on in your life, in your world, in the world, the more, let's just say, enters into your sphere. I'm going to call it like that. Sometimes you personally absorb it. Sometimes it just influences you. And sometimes it just annoys you, even if it's not part of your own life. There are things out there that really just annoy us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That, and we have a whole bunch of different things there. So it's important for us, one, because the fascinating part is that if you ignore what is happening, you're not clearing it. You're just ignoring it. It's kind of like stepping on a nail in your shoe and then making believe the nail isn't piercing your foot when you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, and your foot's going to keep on hurting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this way, when you have things in your life, whether they're deeply personal, whether they're family-oriented, whether they're globally-oriented, any of those areas, if they're influencing you in a negative way or in a susceptible way, then you want to recognize it's happening. Now, we all know that there are some things that initially we can't do anything about, meaning we can't fix it out there.
Right.
Right? And there are things all the way around. So, just talking about it personally, many people have people in their families who are mean, gossiping, argumentative, destructive. I mean, those people are out there. They're not the embracing, loving, people that you actually want to have for your holiday or your brother or your sister or your aunt or whatever it is, right?
Right.
They're there, but they're not the ones who support you, delight in you, are excited with your success. They do the opposite. They try and take you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that for some people, us just talking about this is annoying. But when we're really talking about the practice of letting go and eliminating that, even when it's a process, we need to see that those people are there. The people who, no matter what, don't like you. And they're trying to get at you in some particular way. And these can be really personal people like a brother and a sister or a parent, or they can be friends, or they can be neighbors, or whatever it is.
Right.
But you can feel that energy coming to harm you. So when we look at that, the first thing you want to know is that it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean you put up all your defenses and you're ready to do that. You just look at it and go, oh. And I'll tell you something funny that I did with this for the holidays. But you look at it and go, oh, okay, this is the same thing. For whatever reason, they have this issue, and it's directed at me. Now, unless you really know that you did something really horrible to that person, right, which most likely is not the case,
right,
and you just have to know, okay, I'm not here to heal this. That's not what this conversation, that's not what this person is about. I am here to no longer be hurt by this. And so that's a very different energy right there. If everybody listening, thinks about some circumstance that was like this, and then you sit there and go, oh, wait, I'm not here to be hurt by this. I'm going to be me anyway. Then now you've opened up your own energy field. Now you're embracing your own energy field as opposed to reacting to what's being thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the very same thing goes into a bigger sphere, but I wanted to make it personal first.
Right.
And so now you look at it and go, you just take a breath, and you let your own energy fill you, not that other person's energy. So their words, their attitude, and some people we already know, we've all had these people who not only are they against us, but they love turning other people against us, saying horrible things that we did that we never really did.
Mm-hmm.
All of those kinds of things, it's like we know those people, and so like you want to be fully you in this. And by being fully you in this, then they have less access to your soul, your love, your beauty, and your path.
Mm.
Now, I have to tell you, because Richard, I love to do things that also make me laugh about it,
Mm-hmm.
even though it can drive all of us crazy.
Yeah.
So one of my clients is going to a holiday thing with her family, and there are a couple of people in her family. I don't even know why her family keeps on inviting them, but they do, and they're really mean. Not just rude, like really mean, destructively mean.
Yeah.
And they say things about her that aren't true, and they gossip, and they do everything else. And a lot of times they say it right to her face.
Mm.
So we created a new sacred Santa practice for the holiday for her. And so whenever these people say something to her like that, she turns. This is the practice. We practiced it on the phone together. It was hilarious. She turns to them and she goes, ho, 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 and then she walks away.
I like that. That's good.
And it's like, they get blown away. They don't know what is going on here. But she's just like breaking the energy apart. She's becoming the sacred Santa that pushes away all the negativity, and then she walks away. She doesn't have a conversation about it. And even if they follow her, all she will continue to do the whole weekend is say, ho, 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 and walk away. And it is. It's really funny, isn't it?
I like that. Because you're not trying to get them to stop being annoying. We'll just stick with that word, okay? You are actually sharing with them. I'd like to think a very genuine feeling, okay, and a sentiment. I guess I should say a very genuine sentiment. And I mean, it'd be a whole different thing if you were, being mean and nasty and just saying something off color, profane and what have you. But that's not what she's doing. Although I will also say to you, there are times when my wife and I came up with this too, and I've heard this on some television programs, maybe that's where we got it from, where somebody says something, what have you, and basically what you do is you take on a little southern accent. Well, bless your pea-picking heart, just in the sweetest possible way that you can. Almost like, how Andy Griffith in the Andy Griffith Show, early years, where he is always smiling when he is talking to somebody. Barney, I've that. And he was being serious, but he was not being mean. But that's kind of what he was saying, was bless your pea-picking heart. And that's kind of what we do sometimes when somebody kind of goes that direction. We don't necessarily say it directly to them, but we might look at each other, well, bless your pea-picking heart.
Yeah.
And at least
now on the holiday, you both can go, well, ho, ho, ho.
Well, ho, ho,
and you
ho.
can say it with a southern accent if you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing that I find so interesting is, and I've talked about this before, we talked about it last week in terms of words having power.
Yeah.
And you have taught this woman how to take back her power and then put into those words, ho, 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 her power, but it's not attacking. It is actually diffusing the energy.
It's diffusing and it's joyful because when we did it, right, and you and I laughed.
Yeah.
She laughed. She said, I can't believe I am totally going to do this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then she said, and I can already feel that I don't care anymore.
Exactly.
I just said ho, ho,
ho
with you, and I don't even care anymore. And she said, and of course, it will be really funny to see her expression.
Indeed. Indeed
but
it will.
See, with what goes on and what we absorb, if we don't notice it's happening, and we don't notice the crazy, the upset, the things that really get to us, then we can't take conscious action.
Right.
To understand it. So some of the things that we are releasing because we're carrying them around with us, and I wanted to, use that as an example because sometimes during the holidays that stuff just goes on.
It does.
But those people who are doing it are people who've been doing it to us forever.
Yeah.
It's not new.
I'll share something that I had an experience just recently. Along these lines, and it was only because we were talking about the subject that I started to get, I guess the best way, I started to get a little riled up, Mm-hmm. I wasn't, not at the person I was talking to, but about the subject. And I'll just tell you what it was. It had to do with our government trying to basically keep the government open. We go through this every so often, and right down to the 11th hour, and they finally fix it. And okay, government will stay open for another 6 months or whatever it is.
Right.
Well, this was prior to them coming to a conclusion, and I started going off on the various points that I was making about how ridiculous this whole thing is, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And it was this other person who reminded me, and I knew this, but for some reason it wasn't coming up my head. You do know that we go through this every year or two or whatever the time frame is, And they always fix it at the 11th hour, which is exactly what they do. At that point, and we had already finished our conversation, and I was on the road, and I get to work, and I'm thinking, so I sent her a text, and I said basically, hey, and she's very forgiving in this regard. But I said it anyway. I says, please forgive me for going off like I did. You were absolutely correct that, this situation is always resolved in plenty of time. There is no reason for us to be concerned, blah, blah, blah. And she just basically sent me a thumbs up and a heart and just saying, hey, it's all good. And that was her way of diffusing it in that respect.
Right.
And again, I wasn't even taking political sides. It was just the stupidity of what was going on from in that moment. And it's like, okay, back it down, boy, back it down. Because this is the drama they like to play. And now you're talking about a group of people. You're talking about individuals in a family. Now you're talking about a group of people that are so far removed from us. And it goes to what you said earlier about how sometimes we have no control over any of it.
Yeah.
The only way we get control over it is we remember, in this example, we remember history.
Right.
And this is the game that they play. So there's no reason for me in the future, because they'll do it again. They'll do it again and again and again. Just remember that. And that way you don't get yourself all wound up and bound up in this craziness. Just let it go. You got more important things to do, more fun things to do, more exciting things to do than allow yourself to be, as I've used the phrase before, dragged into that quagmire. It's just a waste of time and energy.
Well, and there are things, so we can look at it and we can go, okay, we both had different examples here, and there are things that bounce around within us. So that's another thing that we're talking about, is like how to release things, how to get clear on things. And it's really, I know it sounds kind of crazy to start thinking about things that really annoy you. And yet, when you recognize what annoys you, then you start to also recognize what things you can eliminate and what things are things you actually want to work on.
Yeah.
So there are things that really within yourself, it's like, it's just that conversation. It's just that judgment of yourself, for whatever reason. It could be a judgment that you got when you were 2 years old. It could be what you look at in the mirror. It could be any of those things, right? It could be that you're not expanding, and connecting the way you want to. Any of those things, that list is going to be huge.
Oh, yeah. It really is.
Now, those are things that you can look at and go, oh, wait, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really important to know that it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Because we have things from our childhood, and I'm going to say childhood is 18 and under.
Okay.
So we have things from our childhood that we react to, and we still react to it.
Yeah.
We still react to people inviting us into the group if we weren't invited into the group all the time. Or, looking at us in a funny way, or, any of those things. I'm using things that are really obvious, and there are things that are much more inward, where you were wanting to connect more deeply with something, and for whatever reason it wasn't available, or you couldn't connect to it, or you couldn't imagine it.
Right.
We are souls that are in continual growth of being. So certain things that you thought you were conscious of when you were 17, if you look at it now, you might have a much bigger and more amazing view of that, and yet that thought might still get in the way of your expansion.
Right.
So when we look at it, we want to know the one part is, what are the things that really don't matter anymore?
Yeah. 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 That's an important point, is what are the things that don't really matter anymore? And if we can put into practice those things that we recognize that we don't have any control over, those are the things that don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, because we we don't have control over those things. What we do have control over is how we respond or react, if you will. And in this case, it's okay. First thing to ask yourself is, do I have any control over that? And 99.9% of the time, it's going to be no. And if that's the case, then you go on to, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And you just keep saying that. You just keep saying that. It doesn't matter anymore. Over and over and over again. And I would think that I'd like to think there would come a point in the repetition that it actually starts to become, sort of second nature, if you will.
Yeah.
Where you don't even have to think about it anymore. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, when you look at it, it's like, okay, certain things, it's like, oh, it doesn't even trigger anything anymore. It's like neutral.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, it's raining. Do I have to do anything about it? No. Do I want to go inside and not get wet? Sure. But controlling the weather is not my gig.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Yeah. I believe I'm on the list for doing that next month, but right now it's not my job. Yeah.
But being able to play there and know that isn't,
yeah,
it isn't anything there, and it also gives you the opportunity to go, okay, now I'm just going to call that psychic debris for a moment, because it's a poetic way of saying it.
I like it.
It's like now we can look at it and go, okay, so are there things that are important to me? Because if we're looking at what is important and we have a glitch, like we have a personal judgment against it, now that's another thing that you want to clear. So what we were talking about before with the psychic debris, we're just letting that go. You're just looking at it. You can, do my sacred Santa, and just like whatever comes in, you can go ho ho, and just move the energy away. And I'm just right now really, really smiling because I'm really hoping that millions of people are doing it, and all of that psychic debris is just going away. That's my fantasy in the moment, Richard.
Hey, you got to dream. You got to dream.
Exactly. But then we have these other things. It's like, oh, wait, this belief system, this way of doing things, there's a glitch in that.
Yeah.
And it is in my way.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to look at it, and I'm just going to say, do something about it. Not just let it annoy you, not think it's a truth that's going to, badger you, but actually, oh, you know what? I need to complete this. And then I can complete it. If it's in my way and I complete it, it's gone. I'm letting it go.
Right. I saw something online very recently, and this has to do with health issues, specifically type 2 diabetes. Now, I'm hoping that this was true as far as the study that was done. And this is what they were talking about. There's this particular element that they were looking at in the test subject's physiology. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was tied to type 2 diabetes. And what they found was that the individuals that they were testing, okay, with who had type 2 diabetes, okay, and there was a questionnaire that they would fill out and everything. If they had any kind of resentment, and I'm just going to stick with that one word, towards their significant other, the study showed that they were either on the borderline or had type 2 diabetes. Now, I would have to say that I don't know that there is a single couple out there that doesn't have maybe a couple of things that just irritate them about their partner. Okay? But the more items that were listed, the study was showing the more likely they were to either cross that line or already be on the other side and having type 2 diabetes, which of course is treatable and I'm going to say curable, because if you get rid of the resentment, again, something you have no control over, whatever it is that, however they are, whether it's snoring or whatever it is, you start letting that go, then that particular element that they were studying in each of the test subjects shifts back to the other side of the line.
Wow.
And I will find that and get more information on that. But I thought, wow, that,
No, that's really amazing, because we have all of these conversations about, emotional, psychological, vibrational things that create, illness, et cetera, right? But this is a scientific study that is really specific.
Yeah, I was amazed at it myself.
And it shows us also, because there are so many different ways we can change things and uplift things and all of that, that our health and well-being in letting those things go is even bigger than we imagine, because most people listening to us right now might be thinking, well, we're just talking about your emotional well-being so you don't walk around being pissed off.
Right.
And this is like your whole harmony of well-being for your whole essence. Because that being resentful, which is different than just being mildly annoyed.
Right. No, right, exactly.
It's like, oh, okay, well then there's this and and it's another way of looking at what are we letting go of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very powerful example, Richard, because it shows people, it shows us, it shows you and I, that there's a real strong scientific physical component in this.
Yeah.
And it's another thing that's really important about letting go, and here we are starting a new year, and there are things that we want to resolve, and we want to have an open space for new things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that we are triggered by things that they may not even be in our lives, but because the conversation is so triggering and so upsetting, now there is something in us that is a negative energy that is triggering us to say things, to do things, to think things, to react in certain ways that we don't need to have in our lives.
Yeah.
So there are conversations out there that are, obviously they're negative, but they're accusatory, finger-pointing, angry, resentful, like you were talking about, all of those different things, but they may not really be real. They may be created to trigger us.
Right.
And that's another thing to let go of when we're aware of, what's ours, what we're responding to, what we need to, what we need to resolve, which is something that is part of us that we want to learn from, or just let go of because who cares?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're talking with Lumari here on Tell Me Your Story. We're talking about the aspect of releasing some of this energy that we have accumulated, and we all do it to a greater or lesser degree throughout a year, and we're only focusing on the year because that's kind of what we look at. We look at those dividing lines, if you will. And we look at for example, the winter solstice and the summer solstice, and on and on and on, and all of these different points along the way that that I think are very good. Just whether it's because whether we as human beings created these aspects of time or not, they actually help us because odds are we're going to want to do this again in the spring. And along the lines of the whole spring cleaning concept as well. So what I'd like to do right now, before we wrap this segment up, and by the way, folks, when we do wrap this segment up, we're going to dive into another segment of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. I hope that you're enjoying it, and we'll go to Amazon.com to pick up your copy. Obviously, the Audible is on its way because, well, you're listening to the recordings that I have been making of the book. And so that's coming up. But what I want to do now is turn it over to you, Lumari, for the next, I don't know, however long you need or want to go here, because we still have about, I'm going to say 8, maybe 10 minutes of the program segment we're doing, to share with us a meditation that we can utilize. And certainly you folks are certainly welcome to use what she mentioned earlier about when you come across someone like that, you say, ho, 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 and then you just walk away. And you don't take it in. You just keep moving forward with the joy of the season and who you really are and so forth. So, Lumari, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Oh, we are at a place right now where whatever is the distraction, whatever is coming forward to you that's in the way of your joy, of your vision, of your being, it's important to notice. Now, you're not going to embrace it like you need it, but we want to look at it like it's a little marker, like it's a little bookmark that is in the way of going through the flow of how everything is for you right now. So in the moment, without intensely focusing on it, but becoming aware of it, look at the things like I described it before, like psychic debris, where there are little glitches, there are little energies, there are little thoughts, there are little beliefs, there are little conversations, whether they're personal inward thought conversations or conversations from people or conversations in the world that are all no longer beneficial for you. They have no meaning. They are not giving you any direction. They're not teaching you wisdom and guidance and energy. They are simply psychic debris. It could be annoying. It could be holding you back. It could be just distracting your own beautiful personal energy. So I want you to just have a space where you notice anything that's like that without necessarily having to make a list. You don't have to say it's this, and this. Just really tune into the fact that there's a space there that causes that unappreciated chaos in your energy, in your emotions, in your thoughts, and in your life. And I want you to just simply notice it and visualize it any way you like. You can look at it like a cloud. You can look at it like a tornado. You can look at it like it's just something, little sparkles that are distracting you. And now take a nice deep breath and tune into the beauty of your own being. However you notice that about yourself, whatever dreams you have, whatever dreams you're ready to create, whatever love is in your heart, and whatever beauty you see in the world, that's what you're tuning into. And now take another slow, deep breath and feel that joy and beauty and harmony and love within yourself. And as you gently remember the psychic debris, imagine there's a beautiful chorus of angels, of birds, of songs that are flowing through you right now. And that chorus, whether you hear it or not, is a high vibration of energy that dissipates all of that energy that's no longer needed for you. This is creating an opening. So take another deep breath and let the beautiful chorus and song move through your energy field. And take the psychic chaos, take the glitches, take the confusion, take anything that doesn't need to be there, take anything you're ready to let go of, and just move it into the ethers where it dissipates and moves back into neutral energy. And take another deep breath and do it again. And let that beautiful song move through you and release everything that's ready to leave. Everything that you have no attachment to. Everything that's no longer yours anymore. And just let that song take it through the ethers where it becomes neutral and dissipates. And now take another deep breath and feel the space of your being. It's open. There is room now within your body and your being for dreams, for more love, for more creativity, for more harmony, and for more of what you don't even know about yet. You're in a space of beauty and harmony within yourself, and you're there to celebrate it. And take a nice deep breath and celebrate who you are. And take another deep breath and experience the release you have. And in this moment, just know that we are celebrating you. Beautiful.
It is that special time of year that we set aside to celebrate. And though it is more challenging to celebrate when you have a loved one who departs, but it is still a celebration because they are moving on to another part of their adventure, just as we are in the midst of our adventure here. And it can be really, seriously, a lot of fun. And so take some time to celebrate. Celebrate the people who have come and gone in your life. Celebrate those people who are still in your life. For that matter, I think it would behoove us to celebrate the people who haven't yet come into our lives, but they're coming. And you can choose which ones you want to keep in your life. You can choose the ones you want to draw to you. Or I think I like it better the way that the one gentleman told me about the law of attraction. You can choose to draw yourself to those people that you want in your life. And to me, that's exciting. It really is. Because, I mean, I was sharing earlier about I went to an event with one of our up-and-coming programmers, and I met all kinds of incredible people who have some wonderful stories and may actually open up some doors and opportunities I don't even know about yet. And they may not, but it doesn't matter, because the meeting of these people, just that, was so much fun. It was so exciting, you know. And so I invite you all to celebrate with us. Lumari, I thank you so much for celebrating this time with us here on this particular Christmas day of 2024, as we will get together 1 week hence, which will be in the new year. And we're going to talk about that very thing of generating the kind of energy that you want. Letting go of the resentments, saying ho, ho, ho. Even if it's July, you can say ho, ho, ho.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely. And then begin the process of drawing those energies you want in your life to do the things that you want. I mean, really want in your life.
Yeah.
I have no desire to get involved in what they're doing over on the East Coast. I can't control that. So I'll stay focused on the West Coast. I'll stay focused here and just have a lot of fun and celebrate with everybody else as we move through each day, week, month, and year. And just have some fun and hopefully help others to celebrate. I know that you and I, Lumari, are kind of on the same page. I mean, we're always celebrating, and we don't always say what it is, because sometimes it isn't really anything. It's just, hey, we're just celebrating because we want to celebrate. Because it's fun, you know? So thank you so much for celebrating with us here today.
Oh, thank you, Richard, and thank you, everyone. And just do us a favor. Let Richard know if you're ho-ho-hoing.
There you go. Please. You can do that by sending me an email, tmys@richarddugan.com. Although, you know, the thought has occurred to me, I wish I'd thought of this before, I could actually create up an email address, ho-ho-ho@richarddugan.com. Okay? TMYS for Tell Me Your Story, TMYS@richarddugan.com. Love to hear from you, and I hope that I will hear from more of you as we get into the new year, the new energy, and we'll continue our conversations with Lumari on that first day of January 2025. So stay with us. Stay with us now, because we're going to take a listen to another excerpt from the book Choices, 5 Steps for Life, that I released back in September. And obviously the Audible is getting very close to being released, because you're hearing bits and pieces of it as we move forward. So Lumari, once again, thank you. And I thank you folks for listening. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love Talal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho. And now, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. Step 3. Match your actions to your words. If you want to live, then act like it. Do only those activities that are in alignment with your choice. Put all your energies into doing what needs to be done to bring about your choice. When we decided to buy our first house, I talked with a lot of people about what the process entailed. I received all kinds of information that, though accurate, was a waste of time. I wanted to buy a house, not be taken through the process. So I began saying to myself, out loud, I'm buying a house. And whenever I found myself getting distracted by the steps along the way, feeling frustrated that it was taking too long, afraid the paperwork wasn't going to go through, and hundreds of other thoughts that came into my mind, I repeated over and over again, I'm buying a house. And you know what happened? Against the statistics and the advisors, we bought a house in less time with less frustration and worry. And I did the same thing when I sold the next house, and at the height of the real estate boom. In January 2017, I made several promises to myself that I would complete in the year. One was to have a vocal coaching session to see what I wanted to do with music in my life. I completed that one and made a new promise for 2018. I also promised myself I'd finish this book. As I add these words, it is December 29th, 2017 at 8 p.m. Will I finish by midnight on the 31st? You tell me. At this time, I'm applying for a job at a local news talk station here in Phoenix. One of my co-workers told me about it. He said I had the experience to do the job, so over the weekend I put together my resume, and on Monday I gathered together some of the reel-to-reels that contained the commercial spots I'd produced over the past year or so, and created an air check tape. That same day, I had a message to call the program director at the station to see about the job. I called him and he asked me when I could come down to meet with him. I said Tuesday. He asked if 11:30 would be okay. I didn't want to take time away from KXEG, so I asked for a time earlier in the day. He said, "How about 8?" I said that would be great. The rest of the day I spent creating the tape. Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., I got on the bus and headed downtown for the interview. At 7, I arrived at a copy place to make copies of my resume. It was kind of funny that the copying looked better than the original. I spent a few minutes talking with the attendant and found out more about him than I ever really wanted to know. I was glad, though, because at least he helped to take my mind off the upcoming interview. At 7:15, I went over to Circle K to get a bite to eat. I bought chocolate milk and a breakfast burrito. A man walked up while I was eating and asked when the next bus was coming by. I told him any time. I finished my breakfast and went over to the building where the radio station was and waited for someone to come by to let me in. I noticed an intercom on the wall next to the door, so I pushed the speaker button and asked for Rick Stacy. The man on the other end of the intercom asked my name, and I told him. He then buzzed me in. When I got to the top of the stairs, the man who answered the intercom was waiting for me. He directed me to sit and wait, and told me Rick would be in shortly. I sat down and waited with another woman who, it turns out, works there. She was reading the paper. Bill Haywood was on the air and was wrapping up the 7 o'clock hour and making way for the network news. Both he and his co-host, it turns out, was an old friend of mine, came out of the studio to take a coffee break. Another woman came out of the control room and asked who I was waiting for. I told her, and she gave me the same answer the first man did. A few minutes later, Bill's co-host came out and said hi to me. She said I looked familiar to her and said her name was Shelley. I finally recognized her from my years at Sun Sounds Radio Reading Service. We talked about this and that for a couple of minutes. She asked me what I was interviewing for. I told her it was the assistant program director's position. She wished me luck in a clumsy sort of sincere way and went back into the studio. Todd, the guy who told me about the opening, came out of the control room and wished me luck and went downstairs for a smoke. Rick came in at about 8:10, and we shook hands, and I followed him into his office. I handed him my resume and asked if he wanted my tape. He said no. He looked over my resume and then asked me the standard questions about my experience. I didn't feel too comfortable, and my answers didn't seem to come out quite right. When the interview was over, he led me downstairs to the lobby where I was to fill out a job application, standard procedure. When I completed the application, I handed it to the secretary and went outside. As I waited for the next bus to take me home, I had the feeling I had just worked a 24-hour shift. I was tired. I replayed the interview over in my mind and only saw the flaws. I was really critical. I finally stopped and said, I did it. The one thing I only had fear about was the interview. Putting the resume and tape together was the easy part. Going down and selling myself was, in my mind, the hard part. And I walked right on through the fear and the interview and had sold myself in the best way I had. Now I wait. I had shared this story with some of my friends and my wife, and they all supported and encouraged me. They also tell me that I can't really make an honest evaluation because I'm too close, and my view is totally subjective. They all feel, as I do, that the job is mine. I'll find out next week. In the meantime, I have lots to keep me busy. The one thing my wife told me is that I need to focus on what is the highest good. Is my going to work for KFYI in their best interest? Is it in my best interest? And what about all the others whom this change will affect? This is not the end of my path, just one of many steps along the way. When I focus on that, there is a calm, peaceful, excited feeling inside me. I know that it's my time to move on to the next level in my career and on to the next level in my path and purpose. And that all feels right, like I'm really on purpose. One of the things I did when I applied for the job at KTAR News Talk Radio was to write an affirmation stating I already had the job. I feel that, and I was told that, I need to feel it, and say it, believe it, see it, write it, and know it, claim it. Do all I can do to let the universe know my intention and desire. And so, I have produced Path 1. It is my statement of faith and belief in all the signposts that tell me that the purpose for my life is to flow into and through KFYI News Talk Radio. I am noticing that the little voice of doubt is getting smaller and smaller the more I continue to affirm this. I also feel and know that this change is for the highest good of all parties involved. I can do the job. I'm doing the job now. And I have a greater job to do than the one I want at KFYI. And that greater job will be accomplished in and through KFYI. Take care of the details today, because it's the details that will make you or break you. Give yourself reasonable timelines and goals, and take small bites so you can feel those little successes along the way. So, stay focused, stay on track, do only those things that are in line with your choice, and you will make your dreams come true. Step 3, match your actions to your words.